Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of WLBE, Real Country, 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on television, you're doing so on Lake Sumter TV, Comcast Channel 13, Spectrum 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. I always got to remember that one. So today we, I think, have a very interesting show for you. I will be talking to two student directors, film producers, who have recently made a video or a film that's made the news. And its topic is on gun violence, and it's basically an outreach to get people to kind of join together and help prevent any more. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce them. So today my guest is Molly and Sage. How are you guys doing today?
Well, we're doing pretty great. Thank you so much for having us on the show. We're really excited to be here.
Thank you. Yes, we're excited.
Good. You look it. You're not nervous at all.
No.
See, it's all that coaching before the show, right?
That's it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right. See, I should be a director. Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. Molly, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into filmmaking, and then Sage, I'll ask the same of you.
Sounds good.
So I started being interested in film. When I was about 14, I started making films. But before that, I was an actress, and I acted in a couple FSU short films. And I just loved the process. I loved watching the students come together to make this collaborative project. And I decided that I wanted to start writing. So I ended up writing a couple different scripts, and I was working on them. And eventually, I went to a film camp and got to try it out for myself. So I made my first film and entered it into festivals, and I just love the process. So I was just obsessed with it ever since that.
Now, I've seen some of your work, and I got to say, it's really, really good work.
Thank you.
It really is. Sage, you're up. Why did you get into filmmaking, and how long have you been in it?
Well, I've been filmmaking for actually not that long of a period, but how I got into film is kind of an interesting story. So I've actually been an MMA fighter for the last couple of years, and strangely enough, I got pulled into a couple martial arts films as an actor. So
Is that right?
Yeah. So I started acting over the last couple of years, and I had a lot of success with it. But as I started learning more and more about the business, I just started loving the art of film. So I started researching filmmaking and taking all the classes I could, and as soon as I made my first film, I knew there was no going back.
Really? Now, how many films have you produced?
At this point, I believe I've produced 5 short films.
Wow.
And obviously that's going to keep growing.
All right. Molly, how about yourself? How many do you have? Because I've been on your Vimeo page. You've got
Yes.
quite a few as well.
Honestly, it would take me a little while to count it all up. I've done a lot of summer programs, so I've just worked on a lot of films. Films that I've directed and written myself, probably about 6 or 7, if you include commercials and promo videos. I've also done, I did a commercial for my school. I've done a couple experimental short films, a couple narratives, so I can't even keep track at this point.
Now, what school do you attend? And do they have a program for film?
I go to Mofford Academy. We actually do have a really great film program. We have top-notch equipment. My school is so supportive of film, and especially because as our program is growing, we're a small private school, so it's hard to get a lot of kids involved in like very specific areas of the arts. But they have really accommodated me and given me an independent study period every day. So I can study film for an hour and a half every day in my school day, just because of how supportive they are of me and the arts.
So I've got to ask, study film. To me, that translates to watching movies. How far from the truth am I?
Well, you're not too far off. But when you watch a movie to study film, it's a completely different way of watching films. You're watching the shot composition, you're watching the story unfold, and writing a script, there's a lot of technical things that go into that. You have to develop the characters. It's a lot like writing a book in a way. You have to study that, and learning about the equipment and the technology involved is a lot as well. We have to learn the editing software, how to use the camera, how to set up the shots, how to tell a compelling story. There's a lot that goes into it.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a moment. I really don't. And that was very eloquent. It really was. It's the difference of watching a ball game and analyzing the plays.
Absolutely.
You know, you can sit there and just veg out, or you can actually see what the previous directors have done. Well, Sage, now, where do you go to school, and do they have a program?
Yes, so I go to Windermere High School,
Okay.
and we have a great film program. There's a lot of people involved with it. Our school's very supportive of it, like Molly's school. And yeah, it's been a great opportunity for me to learn a lot about the process of making films, the techniques, using the equipment. It's been a great learning experience over there.
Okay, now, both of you you attend two different schools.
Yes.
So, talking about Dear America, how did this collaboration come about to begin with? Are you friends outside of the school, or was there a film festival that you both bumped heads and said, "Hey, I like your work. Hey, I like your work"?
Well, that's actually kind of funny. So me and Molly saw that we were both attending a big film festival in New York together. And we saw
New York City.
Yeah, up in
All right.
our films were playing actually in Times Square there.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Both
So
of our
y'all are
past
already
films.
big time.
I don't know about that, but we're
Well.
hoping so. But yeah, so we saw that we were both student filmmakers, which is a very tight circle of people, to say the least. And we saw we lived near to each other, and I just reached out and said, "Hey, I would love to meet up sometime and talk about projects, see where we can collaborate and such." And we met up, and Molly presented the script to me. And if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well,
Yes, because you wrote it, correct?
I did, yes. I wrote the script, and I knew this was going to be a big project to take on by myself. I don't consider myself as good of a director as I could. I feel like I need to work on that a lot. So I knew that Sage was a great director. I had watched some of his work before, and I was like, okay, I need another student to bring in a different perspective and help me direct this project, because I don't want to do this halfway. Like, I have to go in fully with this, and I want the best team possible. So I wanted to invite him to work with me.
That really, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's a great story. I mean, you guys met in New York City, came back, collaborated on this film, and, well, I've seen it. I think it's a great film, and I think it's got a strong message, very powerful. And if one of our viewers wanted to watch this, where can they see a list or some of your other films?
Yeah, well, so for Dear America, we actually have a Facebook page for the film that posts about reactions to it, media on it. You can check it out at Dear America Film on Facebook, or you can also find it on YouTube.
And if you want to watch any of my previous work, I do have a Vimeo account. It's under my name, Molly Smith. So I put some of my work on there. I put some on YouTube. But right now we're promoting Dear America the most, so that's probably like the most you would see. But I do post all my work also on my Instagram account. That's mollywood.films.
Mollywood, I saw that. Pretty catchy, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I thought that was her real name at first. So I said, "Oh, you're Molly Wood, right?"
In 20 years, everybody may know her. As
I know,
that.
right? That's what I'm saying. These were her stage names.
Yep.
It's been a nickname since I was a kid. They would always call me Mollywood. So I was like, well, it kind of fits now. We'll go with it.
It does. Well, guys, we need to take a quick break, and when we get back, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the film Dear America. Sound good?
Great. Sounds
Great.
great.
All right, we'll be back after these messages. Hello and welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. So this episode, we're making waves talking with Molly Smith and Sage Croft about Dear America, and actually just a little bit about them because they're two inspiring filmmakers, and if you get a chance to see their work, I highly recommend it. So before the break, again, we were speaking about how you guys met, how you fell into this, I don't want to say line of work, but we'll say line of study. Let's talk a little bit about Dear America, okay? Because like, as I said in the previous segment, I've seen it. I think I was really, really impressed. What inspired you to write this to begin with?
Well, Dear America started out as a poem. It was a poem I wrote about a year before we actually produced it. I was inspired by all of the acts of violence that were happening to write this. It came out of a lot of frustration. after the Pulse shooting and also the Parkland attack, I felt that I needed to express the way our generation felt about this issue. So I wrote a poem called Generation Z. Eventually that adapted into the poem Dear America, and I decided that it would be a powerful message to portray with film. So that's when I wrote the script.
Okay, and can you tell the audience what is the film about? We've kind of beat around the bush,
Yeah, exactly.
but we haven't really, shame on me,
Right.
gotten into it. So tell us a little bit about what it's about.
So Dear America is a poetry film that has the perspective of a couple different students all the way from age 7 to age 17. And it shows their daily lives at school and how they feel about the issues that we're dealing with today in regards to gun violence.
So you saw the script
Yes. Yes, I
and
did.
said, I want to be a part of this.
Yes. So.
Well, actually, she kind of sounded like, no, I want a little bit of collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. But she showed me the script, and obviously it was an incredible message that was really easy to get behind. But my favorite part of actually collaborating on the project, what that she was interested in bringing me on for also, is to get other voices from our generation in it. So it's kind of a social commentary from our generation. Dear America, a film by Generation Z.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite parts of the film was collaborating. I went to meetings talking about gun violence and how we should deal with it. And I was really did a lot of research into the issue. And it was great hearing all different kind of opinions from our generation to incorporate into the script and the story and everything.
Okay, and so did you find that amongst your classmates or your peers that this is equally important to them as well? Because we hear a lot about that in the news, and I find myself in a unique position and an opportunity to inquire as to how do you guys look at it today?
Well, especially, I think this is almost universal among our generation, that it's a forefront issue for us. It's staring in our face every day. School safety is such an important thing in daily life, but especially for us. I mean, we're having to deal with things that other generations haven't really had to deal with in the past, and it's just a changing time. I mean, we still up in elementary school, you're doing like lockdowns in your schools and everything, and kids just at that age you can't even understand really what's it about.
Right.
Right.
We were talking to our actors as well to get their perspective and opinions on it. And a lot of them had personal stories with lockdowns that had happened at their school and scares that had happened, where they were during the Parkland attack, if they knew somebody. I mean, there were a lot of stories just from that group of people that were working on the film, and I know there are thousands more out there. Every school deals with this problem. So I think it is universal, and it's definitely something that affects our generation the most.
On a lighter note, I actually have a kind of a funny story on this. So we had a very serious lockdown, and we thought we had an active assailant on campus, and it got a little crazy on campus. And so I ended up driving out my car and driving off campus and running over a whole bunch of fences to get out of the school. It ended up being not an issue.
I hope they already knew about that because this is out there now.
I know, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so it's something that my school has dealt with, that I've dealt with personally. So it's really it's an issue to be dealt with.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think anybody can contend with that.
Yeah, and
they really can't.
Yeah, and I see, and that's kind of what with our film, we're not proposing one solution for it, because we know that there's a lot of answers out there, and what this film we're trying to do is bring people together. That there needs to be social discourse to solve this issue, and I think that was the main purpose of this film.
Yeah, we wanted to start discussions about this, and we wanted to start civil discussions between parents and kids and grandparents and kids, because talking to younger generations can help get that perspective out there so that we can come to a solution together rather than arguing with each other and having just such polarizing ideas. We know that the only solution is we must come together and deal with this as one country.
So if you could sum up the message of the film, what do you think the message is? And Molly, then I'd like to hear from you as well. Unless it's the same, then you can just say what he said.
Yeah. Well, I would say the main message of this film is that gun violence is a major issue in our country, and we have to put aside our differences and come together to solve it.
Okay. Is that why you wrote the poem?
That is. I would say that pretty much hits the nail on the head. I really think that with a poem also, we're sharing something through art. And I think a lot of people can appreciate art in a different way. Sharing stories, I think, is the best way to gain acceptance for things. Hearing something personal would help you to understand a perspective you may not understand without hearing something personal.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we take a quick look at the film and let our audience see it?
Dear America, where have you been? You used to tell me stories of hope and bravery. You used to tell me about the flag that's still there.
One nation, under God.
I used to wear red, white, and blue, singing our songs in the summer heat. You never come outside to play anymore. Mommy says it's because you're trying to keep out terrorists. What's a terrorist?
Dear America, I started high school today. The doors are lined with coats of armor. An officer stands with a firearm and children scan the streets for predators. Uncertain footsteps down our crowded hallways, waiting to be the next victim.
Dear America, my school had its first lockdown. We were told to hide in the corner, silent.
Waiting for the attacker through a thin wall. Why do we wait in the shadows? Why do we wait to be shot?
Dear America, how many final texts will students have to send to their parents under a desk for us to be safe again?
Dear America, a school near me was attacked on Valentine's Day. I watched television in horror, blood boiling in my body as I saw the death toll rise.
My stomach churned as we returned to school the next day, as if nothing had happened. Students laughing because we are so used to these occurrences that it is nothing more than an afternoon thunderstorm.
When did children become secret soldiers? And when did schools become a battlefield?
Dear America, I know what it means. Terrorism. We learned about 9/11 in history class.
Dear America, when did my city become a hashtag? You told me this would never happen to me. You promised me that my streets weren't crowded with mentally ill, that they are the real problem. But I'm starting to think that the problem is you.
Dear America, why does the flag fly in the middle more than the top?
America, why do you think that thoughts and prayers are enough to save us from being another news story?
Dear America, today a lady was telling us we are strong, that my generation is braver than hers. Maybe it's because we were forced to be this way to survive. Maybe it's because she was too afraid to say the words gun violence, and we are not.
Our hearts break for Boston.
Colorado.
Orlando.
New York.
Texas.
Parkland.
Dear America, when will you start listening? When will my words be more than just noise to you?
When will my words be more than just a worn-out pair of shoes that's been left on the roadway to rot in the heat?
I have a mouth but no one's listening.
Why are my words the cold, dead silence of an empty house? Or a scream at the bottom of a swimming pool?
Dear America, please write back soon.
Love, Taylor.
Lucas.
Ben.
Emily.
Evan.
With love, Generation Z.
Okay. What kind of feedback have you had? Because I would imagine there's got to be a lot of positive and almost none that's negative.
Well, it's funny you
But
say
who
that.
knows?
Yeah. So the feedback we had was absolutely incredible. We had people reaching out from all over the country, just how amazing, how touched they were by this film, especially among like the education community, teachers and students. Like we had a lot of connection there. But also, we did have our fair share of haters on the internet.
We did have some negative comments, and we were expecting this. With a film that is talking about some aspect of politics, it's hard to avoid that.
Sure.
We had a lot of YouTube comments that were very negative, but I'm not sure that they really watched the film. I think some people just seeing the words "Dear America" and it starts out with a kid talking, they all kind of assumed that it was trying to be more like propaganda. But a lot of people didn't know that this film was actually created entirely by students under the age of 19. The entire crew, writing, directing, editing, music was all made by students under the age of 19.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's really truthful. But there were a lot of positive comments, and my favorite ones were the ones that people would say, wow, this really inspired me to have a conversation with my grandson and ask him what he thought about this. And I think my mind has changed about this issue.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting comments. People talking about, wow, this is a new perspective. And I think people really appreciated the promotion of the civil discourse versus just throwing a message at someone.
Right. Well, guys, I think, like I said, I've seen it. It's a fantastic film. I'm glad you've gotten the support. I see you both are wearing your Dear America shirts.
Yes, indeed,
Yes.
we are.
Can you go into a little bit about that? Because before the show, you were explaining to me.
Right. We made these T-shirts for our cast and crew, but everybody loved them so much. We were like, well, maybe we should make more of them and sell them. So we ended up selling T-shirts. We raised just over $400 for Everytown's Gun Safety Action Fund. So they're selling them at my school, and we actually do have a few left. So if anybody listening is interested in one of our T-shirts, they can just message our Facebook page, and we can make sure they get one.
And what would your Facebook page be?
Dear America.
Dear America.
Yes.
Okay. Well, guys, that's about all the time we have for today. I really do want to thank you for coming out, making the film, and sharing your side of the tale.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that's it for our show today. This has been Radio Waves. We'll see you next time.